Hi guys, this is Nathan doing another video on my law-5 website, which you can see on the screen right now. law-5.webnode.page or .com, both interchangeable endings. And today we're on the conditional acceptances page. You can access the law site by going to my main website, EmpowerYourLife.dev, and scrolling down to the first button that you see, the image of the city of London at sunset, and it says learn the rules of the system. You can click on that button or view law website to take you to the home page of this site, and then you want to go to the drop down menu here, the top right hand corner, and click conditional acceptances, which should be the first page at the top of the options. And it says conditional acceptances, no controversy, no case. I will be doing this video in two parts because it's a long page. This is my fourth video on this website here. So if you haven't already, I suggest you watch the previous 3 videos. If you look here, we have a page index, so you can skip to certain sections of this page if you want to go ahead and skip to the looking at the fine, for instance. But this first part is going to be teaching you the very important principles, and then the second part, the second video, is going to be showing you how I applied these principles in real life against the police fine, which was sent to me by the Criminal Records Office and which threatened what sounded like a criminal conviction. I mean, it was coming from the Criminal Records Office, so if the naming of that company is accurate, then that's what they were offering me. But I'll show you how I got rid of that very easily with one notice, one response letter that I sent them. So let's start. It says, before reading this page, know that it is supposed to be read after reading and digesting the information on the home page and other previous pages. See page index in the top right hand corner and my YouTube/BitChute videos. And actually should be read after reading through my foundation notes, which you can access or you can request by going to the contact page, have a read of that and find out how to get those. It says here, but is shared here for times of emergency. So as I say, you should watch the previous videos and read those first, but if you have an emergency, it's here for you to help in that situation. And the first title here says lockdown shenanigans. Since I was fined for standing by a bench a couple of weeks ago at time of writing in January 2021 by 2 policy enforcement officers, aka police, who thought they were members of the Gestapo or Stasi in Nazi Germany, I've decided to write this web page. You'll see the notice of fine they sent me further down the page and how I got rid of it. This website is only for myself so that I have something to refer to, because when you're put on the spot it's hard to remember everything. So when I say you, I know that I really mean I or me. Also, this is not legal advice, so I'm not legally qualified. Since I'm not legally qualified and I'm not interested in rules of a corporation anyway, I'm only interested in law. If this is helpful to you too, then it's also good. Although I can't tell you what to do and cannot recommend you do anything. In fact, I recommend you don't do anything that you don't thoroughly understand first, although learning experiences only come from having experiences to learn from in the first place, of course. But as I say, below win the war before it's fought. That means preparation is everything. Winning the war before it's fought. The contract defines the law. Stop being tricked into agreement with unlawful but legal contracts in the lower statutory law form. Define your contract now in a higher law form, such as commercial law. Get your adversary into agreement rather than disagreeing with them and creating controversy. In a court of law, if there is no controversy, then there is no case. A conditional acceptance creates agreement on your own terms, not theirs. To provide proof on a point-by-point basis, for example, Matthew 5:25 from the Bible says, "Agree with thine adversary quickly whilst thou art in the way with him, lest at any time the adversary deliver thee to the judge, and the judge deliver thee to the officer (in brackets court bailiff), and thou be cast into prison." That's from the King James Bible. There's a link to it up there. The meaning of this will become clearer as we go on. First, let's understand contract. When we break down that word, we have the Latin prefix con, meaning with. That tells us that a contract involves more than one party. Then we have the suffix trat, which, to be brief, is an action word. Put these together and we see that contracts are defined by the actions and interactions between two or more parties, because contracts are fluid and changing. Contracts are basically governed by international maritime admiralty law, which is the law of the sea, or the law mercantile law, which has been extended to land and is international, as it has to be, because it governs commerce and trade. In brackets, think of ships traveling to other countries with cargo that has already been bought by someone across the sea or to sell at market. But this commercial law actually governs our every interaction. In any situation involving another party, the status in the relationship is being defined by the actions and interactions between the parties. So if you think of a policy enforcement officer, in brackets police, as an example, they will usually ask you for your name. Then if you give it to them, you have just established that they are the higher status in this interaction and relationship. As I write this, a nursery rhyme springs to mind involving sheep. Yes sir, no sir, 3 bags full sir. Anyway, when participating in commerce, we always want to stay in honour. And if anyone is going to be dishonourable, let that be the other party. Yes, so don't go around singing that nursery rhyme to police when they ask you for your name. So the way we stay in honour is by taking responsibility. So if there is an alleged debt, we want to accept it. We want to accept every contract offer, but we also want to keep our status while doing so. This is what we need to learn how to do. More on this in a bit. In the example of the interaction of the police enforcement officers I gave above, the role is reversed to how it should be, because they are a public servant and we are a member of the public. Therefore, they are there to serve us. When I say that, I don't mean in a derogatory sense. I just mean they are there to help us if we know how to act. It's not our fault, as we have been trained by the schooling system, or the public schooling system as I like to call it, by those with the money, i.e. the banking families, merchant bankers, to act in the opposite way to what we should. We have been programmed into a habitual way of lifestyle where we just do as we're told, bite your lip, don't answer back, and don't ask questions, especially of so-called authority. Well, I'm here to tell you the authority is within, or since law comes from the Bible, as Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven, in square brackets, authority, is within. And the thing is, the police have gone through the same schooling system too, so they also believe what they've been taught, or they've been fooled to believe it. Also, as a policy enforcement officer, they have been taught to enforce statutes or acts of law. A statute is defined as a legislative rule of society which has the force of law. They are given the force of law by our consent, which goes back to our conduct, how we act being the most important thing here, once again. They enforce these acts of law because the government has told them to, being that the government owes trillions of pounds worth of money to the international bankers. That's the national debt. Obviously, statutes are there to stop accidents. If there was no consequence for jumping red lights, for instance, irresponsible people would do just that and cause harm to others. So if we didn't have irresponsible people, we probably wouldn't need them, and acting responsibly is part of staying in honour. This national debt has an interest rate of more than £5,120 per second. So, as I have said, the only thing government can do about this problem is to decrease expenditure, i.e. make cuts, or to increase income. Hence why we now even have a coronavirus fine, as they try to come up with more and more ways to collect revenue towards the national debt. Now, back to my example above, the officer, by asking for your name, was the one with the higher status, because by asking the question, they are the one acting as king. Asking equals as king. This, however, is only an offer. Remember, I said all interactions define the contract. Well, they are trying to define the contract here with you in the subordinate role. Even if they don't realize it, they've been told to ask for your name and date of birth, but maybe they haven't been explained why. Well, if you go up to the sergeant, he probably knows, or she knows. Your actions, your answer determines if you accept that role. If you give them your name, you have accepted the lowest status in the contract stroke relationship. If you refuse to give them your name, you have also accepted the lowest status in the relationship. Sounds confusing? Let me explain. I said before that we want to stay in honour by accepting all offers. I also said we want to keep our status intact when we accept. So how do we do that? All will become clear below. The 4 paths or 4 responses. Since contracts are defined by your actions, they are fluid, changeable in the moment, they are mutable. That's why this page may be the single most important thing you learn on this website, or any others, because even if you correct your status on paper, what you do after the fact can undo all the good work you did on paper and diminish your status, which can potentially land you in big trouble. This is why I say not to do anything without first understanding fully what you are doing, and why I recommend you read this page many times. One of the people I learned this from in the first place ended up being sentenced to around 10 years in prison in America, where he always lived, because of his own errors in not following these principles well enough, in fact, in my opinion, which goes to show the importance of what I am about to share, although he did make himself a target as he was very well known, so couldn't afford to slip up. Your 4 options. There are only ever 4 ways or 4 options you ever have to respond to an offer. So there's only 4 ways you can respond to an offer. Whether physically, by your actions, verbally, or on paper, and whether that offer is a fine, imprisonment, or any other benefit they want to offer you. Yep, they class them as benefits and privileges. All of these 4 responses are equal to acceptance stroke agreement. Yep, so there's only 4 ways to respond, and they all equal agreement. Number 1 is silence. Number 2 is acceptance agreement. Like, in other words, you're saying I accept, I agree. Number 2 is refusal. Number 3 is refusal even. Number 4 is conditional acceptance. The 4 responses break down. Let's break it down. Let's now go into detail with each of the 4 above responses. Number 1, silence. When we are read our rights by police, they say you do not have to say anything, but it may harm your defense if you do not mention when questioned something which you later rely on in court. Anything you do say may be given in evidence. That's here in the UK anyway. In America it's similar. All means the same thing, even whatever words they say it with. Do you notice that when someone is arrested, they are asked to make a statement? This is because your statement can be used as evidence against yourself. You just became your own witness. Yeah, also, the main thing you need to know here is that if you remain silent, you also accept any offers that were made. Remember I said you are defining your status by your actions? Well, that also includes inactions. Silence is acceptance by tacit acquiescence, tacit procurement, because there was no rebuttal of the presumptions made. Number 2, you can just accept, meaning you accept everything at face value, all terms and conditions offered, implicitly or explicitly, implied or spoken, and there are lots of presumptions that go along with accepting things undefined at face value, all working against you, especially with interactions involving police officers, and not just from their side either, but on both sides, all helped by our societal programming. Your acceptance could be demonstrated physically, for example, by doing as a policeman or woman tells you to do, but if they have a gun pointed at you or there is some other threat of violence, I suggest you do as they say, as we can always correct or redefine our status again later, remember? Remember, I say that because I said that it's fluid and changeable in the moment. Number 3 is refuse, rebuke, argue, reject, protest, etc. By doing these above things, demonstrating your refusal, you are arguing, you are creating controversy, something the courts need to be able to intervene. So you are creating controversy, something the courts need to be able to intervene. The courts cannot intervene into your affairs unless you allow them to by creating controversy, because no controversy equals no case. And controversy, if we look at the word contra, that means against, and verse, well, that's basically, we can say that's speech. So speaking in contrary or opposing words. 2 of the 4 legs a court case needs to stand on are 2 opposing parties. They can't, after all, intervene in an argument with yourself, can they? Here's the other thing. By arguing, protesting, etc., you're actually agreeing and once again showing that the other party is the higher authority in the relationship. Think of a child refusing to go to bed. They know they will eventually have to go to bed. They're just arguing and crying about it. But in the end, mummy or daddy always wins. The other thing about this is that making a statement is taking a position, a stance, and whoever is making the claim has to prove it. But if you're asking questions, there's no stance being taken and therefore nothing you need to prove, which reminds me of slippery politicians who never answer questions, and so they never take a stance or a position, and where was it? Yeah, they're making a statement is taking a position, a stance. But if you're asking questions, that's what politicians do. There's no stance being taken, so they know how to avoid your question by changing the subject, asking a different question. That's why they're called slippery. Now, instead, imagine a king. Do you think a king would act this way? Or would a king just laugh and ask, "Don't you know who I am?" Makes sense. Number 4, you can accept with your own terms and conditions, or what's known as a conditional acceptance. For instance, using the above example again of the police, I'll be happy to give you my name upon condition that you provide evidence of a crime or an injured party. Or you could just ask, have I committed a crime? Or am I obliged to give you my name? Or if you want to get out of there, you could just ask, are you detaining me or am I free to go? If they say to you, if you don't give me your name, I will arrest you, then you can conditionally accept that offer, saying, I'm happy for you to arrest me if you agree to pay me £5,000 plus £200 per hour that I'm detained, or just it'll cost you £5,000 plus £200 per hour if you do that. I'm not saying that that'll stop them arresting you, but you know, there are people that have that I've heard anyway that have been freed because the policeman agreed to pay certain fees, they said, but they were arrested, I must add. It also helps if you've already got an affidavit in place detailing that and other facts, meaning the fees, the fee schedule that you charge, the fees that you charge for certain actions being taken against you, like arresting you, etc. Because of the maxim, an unrebutted affidavit stands as truth in commerce. Remember I said it's all contract offers. Yep, it's all commerce. It's our job to stay in honour by keeping trade going as we traverse the seas of commerce in our person stroke vessel, which is our persona stroke corporation, the full capital letter name corporation, that is open to all contracts and all business for the sake of lowering the national debt while we operate as an ambassador in the bankruptcy of the United Kingdom Corporation. We do, after all, want to help, right? Going back to this maxim, an unrebutted affidavit stands as truth in commerce. I'm not actually so sure that that is a valid maxim, but let's put it this way: if there's no witness to testify against you, then, or to testify to the contrary, so to say that you can't charge £5,000 for being arrested and £200 per hour, then it's going to be hard for them to get out of that, you know. A conditional acceptance creates agreement on your own terms. This would be, as well as how we want to respond in face-to-face interactions, also how we want to respond to any offer we receive through the post too. For example, if we receive a corona fine, for instance, I would reply with something like this, and you'll see how I responded in real life on paper further down, which is similar to what I'm going to say now. Thank you for your letter alleging that I owe £100. I'd be happy to pay any money that I do owe. In order for me to do so, please provide me with the following proof of claim. Number one, that the Bill of Rights 1689, which states that all grants and promises of fines and forfeitures of particular persons before conviction are illegal and void. I will update that quote after this video. Has been repealed. So we're saying prove that the Bill of Rights has been repealed, or that particular section of it. Number two, the Magna Carta clause 38, which states that no official shall place a man on trial upon his own unsupported statement without producing credible witnesses to the truth of it. So that goes, yeah, has also been repealed. So that goes back to what I was saying about the maxim that, oh, where was it? An unrebutted affidavit stands as truth in commerce. Well, the Magna Carta, no official shall place a man upon trial upon his own unsupported statement without producing credible witnesses to the truth of it. That will support that maxim, even if the maxim's not valid. This part of the Magna Carta is. Number three, that there is a man that is claiming I owe him a debt, or a man or woman claiming I owe him or her a debt even. Number four, verified proof that there is a court ruling ordering that I pay you anything. Yeah, and then it says, if you cannot provide evidence of the above on a point-by-point basis within 7 days from receipt of this notice, then you agree that there is none. no evidence that is, and that this debt is illegal and void, as the Bill of Rights even says. Any further correspondence from yourselves regarding this matter which does not contain the above proof required in order for me to pay any debt that I may owe, and since you are making a claim for £100, any documents sent to me regarding this matter that does not contain all the above listed items will be charged at a rate of £100 per document. Any visits to where I live will be charged at a rate of £5,000 per visit. This is non-negotiable. And since I've already sent an affidavit to the Prime Minister, which still to this day stands as unrebutted, and an unrebutted affidavit stands as truth in commerce. Well, as I said, there's no witness to say the contrary, anyway, at least. This is an offer of contract, remember, so this is commerce. Then I might also add, you also agreed to pay me damages of £5,000 for making a false claim against me, as already agreed in my unrebutted affidavit sent to the Prime Minister, detailing my fee schedule on such and such a date. Or I might skip this part if I haven't done that affidavit, that is. Yours sincerely, and then your name, without prejudice. So put a star by that and by the Bill of Rights, which you'll see commentary on further down. But hopefully by now you can see the reason why we always want to respond with a conditional acceptance and to accept all offers, in brackets, but on our own terms. Very important, on our own terms, that bit is very important. Alternatively, and to add extra weight to your notice, you can add an affidavit at the bottom as follows. Remember, I said an unrebutted affidavit stands as truth in commerce. Well, presuming you are acting honourably, are causing no damage, loss or harm to another, are telling the truth and acting responsibly, then this is your trump card. A well-written affidavit overrides anything in law because it's a witness testimony, basically. And having 3 signatures, one of which is your own, is a tribunal and private international judgment in commerce. As it states in the Bible, again, under 2 Corinthians 13:1 in the King James Version, this is the 3rd time I am coming to you. In the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses shall every word be established. And under Matthew 18:16, King James Version again, but if he will not hear thee, then take with thee 1 or 2 more, that in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses every word may be established. So we're establishing a claim or a case. I've done one in the past with not just 3 signatures, including my own, but 3 independent witnesses, as seen further down. Click here to skip ahead. So the starred items, number 1, about the Bill of Rights, where I quoted the Bill of Rights. It says, not to be confused with the American Bill of Rights, which was over 100 years later, because actually I was stopped by a ticket inspector on the tube. I had a ticket, but I simply asked them, because they asked to see my ticket, am I obliged to show you anything? And they said yes. And I said, under whose authority and what law? And they said, under statute or something or other, otherwise there's a fine to pay or something like that. And I said, well, the Bill of Rights 1689 says fines and forfeitures before conviction are illegal and void. And they said the Bill of Rights is American, so they weren't even aware of our own Bill of Rights, which was 100 years earlier than the American Bill of Rights. Anyway, number 2, means cannot be used as evidence in court because the starred word or starred words were without prejudice, if we go further back. And without prejudice means it cannot be used as evidence in court. Well, Yeah, that's right. It can't be used as evidence in court. I was thinking of something else, which means they can't use it again in court, but that's a different word. COVID-19 84, fine received. Below is a copy of the coronavirus fine I received. I've taken my name and address off the following documents as I don't want unwanted attention from randoms at my address, obviously. This is what happened after. When coming back from the supermarket, I stopped by a bench which I had placed my shopping bag on in order to look at my phone. My end, my end of the bench was empty, but as I got to the bench, another man wanted to sit down on the bench, so was polite enough to ask first, at which point we spoke briefly for about 2 seconds. This is when the police came in and said to me, "What are you doing standing by a bench?" I kid you not, my reply to this was at the same time as naturally laughing. "What do you mean, what am I doing standing by a bench? Is that against the law?" And I'm going to leave the video there, because I'm going to come back to this part so I can give you the full story in part 2. Thanks for watching, stay blessed, and one love.